The British didn't conquer India with a massive army. They started with a trading company. In 1757, fewer than 4,000 soldiers defeated one of the richest kingdoms in the world. Not because they were stronger, but because one betrayal changed everything. That single battle would shape the future of the Indian subcontinent for nearly 200 years. But to understand how it happened, we need to start with Bengal. Here's India in the mid-1700s. The British East India Company had trading posts in cities like Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. Officially, they were merchants. Their job was simple: buy Indian goods, sell them in Europe, and make a profit. But behind those trading posts, the company was building something much bigger: private armies, forts, and political influence. Meanwhile, Bengal, in eastern India, was the richest province on the subcontinent. Its fertile land produced enormous amounts of rice, silk, cotton, sugar, and saltpeter, an essential ingredient for making gunpowder. Merchants from across Asia and Europe came here to trade. Whoever controlled Bengal controlled immense wealth. In 1756, a young ruler named Siraj-ud-Daulah became the Nawab of Bengal. He inherited one of the wealthiest states in Asia. But almost immediately, he noticed something strange. The British East India Company was acting less like a group of merchants and more like an independent kingdom. Siraj decided that had to stop. Neither side knew it yet, but their next decisions would lead to a battle that changed India's history forever. Siraj-ud-Daulah had every reason to be suspicious. The British East India Company wasn't just trading anymore. Without his permission, they had begun strengthening the walls of Fort William in Calcutta. They added more cannons, expanded their defenses, and increased the number of soldiers protecting the city. Officially, the company claimed it was preparing for a possible French attack, but Siraj saw it differently. Why does a trading company need a fortress? That wasn't his only complaint. The company enjoyed special trading privileges that allowed many of its goods to avoid local taxes. Over time, some company officials abused those privileges, costing Bengal large amounts of revenue. To Siraj, it looked as if the British were becoming too powerful and too independent. So he gave them a clear order: stop strengthening the fort. Recognize the authority of the Nawab. The British refused. Siraj had had enough. In June 1756, he marched toward Calcutta with thousands of soldiers. The company's defenses quickly collapsed. Many British officials fled before the fighting even began. Within days, Fort William had fallen. The British had suffered one of their biggest defeats in India. But instead of ending the conflict, Siraj's victory created a much bigger problem. News of the loss reached the company's headquarters at Madras. Its leaders were furious. If they accepted this defeat, they could lose not only Bengal, but their entire trading empire in India. So they sent one of their most capable commanders to take Calcutta back. His name was Robert Clive, and he wasn't planning to win by military strength alone. When Robert Clive arrived in India, he quickly understood one thing: defeating the Nawab's army in a fair fight would be extremely difficult. Siraj-ud-Daulah commanded tens of thousands of soldiers. Clive had only a few thousand. So instead of relying only on his army, he looked for weaknesses inside Siraj's court, and he found one. Many of the Nawab's own officials were unhappy with him. Some thought he was too young, others believed he was unpredictable. One of the most powerful men among them was Mir Jafar, the commander of the Bengal army. Clive saw an opportunity. Secret messages began passing between the British and Mir Jafar. The offer was simple: help us remove Siraj from power, and we'll make you the next Nawab of Bengal. Mir Jafar agreed. The conspiracy grew. Powerful bankers and wealthy merchants also joined the plot, hoping a new ruler would protect their interests. While Siraj believed he was preparing for a battle against the British, some of the men standing beside him had already chosen the other side. The stage was set. On June 23, 1757, the two armies met near a small village called Plassey. Siraj commanded around 50,000 soldiers and dozens of cannons. Clive had fewer than 4,000 men. On paper, the battle should have been over in a matter of hours. But numbers don't always decide wars. Sometimes one betrayal is enough. On the morning of June 23, 1757, the two armies faced each other near Plassey. The difference in numbers was enormous. Siraj-ud-Daulah had around 50,000 soldiers, nearly 50 cannons, and several of his most powerful commanders. Robert Clive had fewer than 4,000 men. By every measure, the British should have lost. The battle began with heavy cannon fire. For hours, neither side made much progress. Then something unexpected happened. A sudden monsoon rain swept across the battlefield. Siraj's army believed the rain had soaked the British gunpowder. Thinking the enemy's cannons were useless, parts of the Nawab's army began moving forward. But the British had covered their ammunition with waterproof tarpaulins. Their gunpowder stayed dry. Siraj's artillery wasn't as well protected. Much of its gunpowder became unusable. The British opened fire. The advancing troops were forced back. Siraj looked toward the rest of his army, expecting a full counterattack. But it never came. Mir Jafar and thousands of his soldiers remained exactly where they were. They watched, they waited, they did nothing. The battle had been lost long before the first cannon was fired. He had been betrayed by his own commander. As the battle turned against him, Siraj-ud-Daulah realized there was little hope left. His army was falling apart. The commanders he trusted refused to fight, and Robert Clive saw the perfect moment to attack. British troops advanced. The Nawab's remaining loyal soldiers tried to hold their ground, but without support from the rest of the army, they were overwhelmed. By the afternoon, the Battle of Plassey was over. The British had won with fewer than 4,000 soldiers against an army many times larger. Siraj fled toward Murshidabad, hoping to rebuild his forces. He never got the chance. Within days, he was captured and killed by forces loyal to Mir Jafar. As promised, the British placed Mir Jafar on the throne as the new Nawab of Bengal. But there was one catch. Although Mir Jafar wore the crown, the British East India Company now held the real power. From that moment, the company was no longer just a group of merchants. It had become a political power, using Bengal's enormous wealth to expand its army and influence across the Indian subcontinent. The conquest of India did not happen in a single battle, but historians widely regard the Battle of Plassey as the moment when it truly began. A battle that lasted only a few hours changed the future of the Indian subcontinent for nearly 2 centuries.